It's a G life, swerving in a G ride. Who bang, homie, clutching on the 4-5. Don't ever slip, cause you do, boy, that lead flies. Cause at the bottom we stay hunting in that moonlight. You hear the click, you hear the bang when we pass by. This ain't a game fool, the riders really earn stripe. That's on the gang fool forever on that main line. And it's a thin line, so homie better act right. We keep it active, really active up on this side. You hear the whistle as they're throwing up their gas signs. The crime rate in the hood always stays high. Banging for the vital, trucha for the one time. We stay posted, drinking till the sunrise. We stay posted, drinking till the sunrise. It's that G life, swerving in the G ride. Who bang, homie, clutching on that 4-5. Don't ever slip, cause you do, boy, that lead flies. Cause at the bottom. Alright, now starting off right here, we have the Avenues Gang. Now, the Avenues Gang is the largest neighborhood when we're talking about this specific area over here. Now, the Avenues Gang is located, you can find them throughout Cypress Park, Glass Hill Park, Highland Park, Eagle Rock, throughout, all over the place. You know what I mean? I mean, from 43rd Avenue all the way to 57th Avenue, from Cypress Avenue, Devonshire Street to Drew Street. Drew Street is like their main spot, though. That's where you have the Drew Street Assassins, their main clique. Um, the 43rd is the one that you hear the most, the oldest one, but the Drew Street is the one that that's where the activity be going down. You know what I mean? That's where it be cracking. You get caught right there lacking, and man, they ain't gonna leave you flat. The Avenues Gang is a neighborhood that doesn't play. They're heavily rooted, large, notorious. I'm pretty sure people have heard, the rundown on the Avenues Gang, and that's some legit shit, homie. This neighborhood is not playing, homie. They got their riders, and they got their shit on lockdown, homie. Like these guys right here, they be putting it down, homie. Going at it with the um, surrounding neighborhoods around there, and now the Avenues Gang, because a lot of the neighborhoods over here have logos, logos that represent their hood. The Avenues would be a skull, um, like like a kind of like a Santa Muerte kind of calavera gangster looking type skull. Is their logo. That's why a lot of them get the skull tatted on them. And the Avenues Gang has been around since the 40s. Is when the Avenues Gang was established, and obviously the name Avenues because it's all avenues over here. Avenue 43rd, Avenue 46, Avenue 50th, Avenue 57. You know what I mean? It's all avenues. That's the reason why they established the name the Avenues. You know what I mean? You know, based based off that every street over here is an avenue, so that's why they chose that name. And they definitely with the business, homie. And telling you though, gives law enforcement a hard time. They already through gang injunctions and racketeering acts and sweeps and all kinds of shit, homie. But the Avenue Gang is still deep as fuck, like roughly about 1,000 members. So we're talking about a heavily large neighborhood. So yeah, they definitely with the business and be holding it down right there for their barrio and definitely putting it on the map. I got a gang of homies out of the Avenues Gang. Shout out to Bones, that's a homie right there. Shout out to Triste. Shout out to Trusty. Shout out to all the homies from the Avenues that be putting it down right there. Oh, shout out Evil, Spansa Evil. I ain't gonna leave you out. But yeah, shout out to all the homies from the Avenues that be putting it down right there. Now, also right here in Highland Park, this area around over here, you have the Highland Park neighborhood. Now, the Highland Park neighborhood has been around since the 40s, but I heard that before it used to stand for the Highland Park Undertaker, so HPU, who was more like a youth group that, where they band together to watch out, for each other, because, of other groups that try to pick on minorities and stuff like that. But it wasn't until the 1960s that you got the Highland Park, neighborhood, which, what it is today, pues. You know what I mean? And yeah, homie, yeah, they used to kick it right there in Baltimore Street, um, like by 50, 50 and 53rd Avenue is where you're able to find the Highland Park neighborhood, you know what I mean? And these guys are with the business too, homie. Even though the Avenues Gang is the largest gang over here, Highland Park ain't no they ain't no pushovers, they ain't no scrub. They, you know, after the Highland Park, after the Avenues neighborhood, Highland Park is probably the next largest one, and the next one you hear the most about. They're with the business too, homie. These guys are not playing, homie. They got their riders, and they be holding it down, homie. This neighborhood is also large too. Roughly about 600 members. Like I said, it's already been here for a while, and they be representing right there, holding it down, putting their rider on the map. This is an area that it's full of a lot of activity and you definitely hear about them. You know what I mean? Now, the Highland Park, how I said that most neighborhoods over here use mascots. The Highland Park neighborhood mascot is Speedy Gonzalez. That's their mascot, and I gotta say I like that mascot because I'm a fan of Speedy Gonzalez. So you know what I mean. So that's the mascot that they use, and like I said, homie, Highland Park is a large neighborhood that be with the business. They got a bunch of cliques, from the 50th Street Chicos, to the Strickland boys. You know what I mean. You also have the Dukes. You know what I mean. And the Dukes, which will be right there on Monterey Road, by 50th Street. So you'll find them. So all of that areas was considered the Highland Park's neighborhood. You feel me? Um, that's where they do their thing. York Boulevard is also where you can find them. A few tagging crews got it recently have gotten into their hood, making it larger than what it was. And man, yeah, these Highland Park's definitely with the business throughout those back streets. You know what I mean? They definitely be holding it down, and a neighborhood that you definitely hear about. You know what I mean? They put in their barrio up on the map and holding it down right there for their barrio. But that's what's up with the Highland Park neighborhood. Now the next neighborhood up in line right here, when we're talking about size and year and stuff like that, we have the Cypress Park Boys. Now the Cypress Park Boys um, is the next neighborhood, up in line, and the oldest. They were around since the 1960s, mid 60s. Is when this neighborhood was established. Now the Cypress Park Boys, now their mascot is the iconic like spy character with the hammer. It was a comic book strip, from back then. Um, that's their logo, their mascot, which they use. Now the Cypress Park Boys, you can find them through Avenue 20th. So starting from the 20th already over there, like 27th and all that is where you can start finding already the Cypress neighborhood. You know what I mean? So through those back ends is where you find them at. They're roughly the smallest. If we're talking about Highland, Glassell's the smallest, but if we're talking about Highland and Avenues, these guys are the next ones. You know what I mean? But even though they may not be as old school, as large as their counterparts, this neighborhood ain't no joke, homie. They got their riders, homie, and they be putting it down, homie. There's a neighborhood you definitely hear about too, homie. They definitely got the riders, representatives, and putting their rider up on the map, holding it down right there for the Cypress Park Boys. And yeah, that's what's up with them. Shout out to the homie Andrew. That's the homie right there. Feed me down, homie. And shout out to all the homies from Cypress that be doing their thing. Now here we have the last ones out of the parks. You know what I mean? Cypress, Highland. Now you have the Glassell Park locals. Glassell Park locals. So it's the GPLS neighborhood. Now the GPLS neighborhood has been around already, roughly around the 70s, early 70s. It is the smallest out of if we're talking about avenues, Highland, Cypress, and Glassell is the smallest one. Um, due to the fact of the large size of like the rest of the gangs, it makes recruitment a lot harder. And then you have a lot of Avenue members and Highland Park members that stay in the Glassell area, so it makes recruitment a lot harder. So you roughly don't see this neighborhood up as much as you do the other neighborhoods. But nonetheless, homie, they got their riders and representatives. You know what I mean? From time to time, you still see it up, and you bump into these homies because, like I said, homie, neighborhoods don't really die, and you'll have homies that be putting it down right there for their rider. You know what I mean? They ain't just gonna roll over and die. You feel me? So, these guys, they do have their riders that be, still holding it down for their barrio and putting it on the map and definitely holding it down for theirs. And yeah, that's what's up with the Glassell Park locals right there. Also, right here in the Nela area, you have the Eastside 18th Street neighborhood. Now, Eastside 18th Street has already been in this area for quite some time, since the 80s, and they're roughly pretty large in size. You feel me? Right here, now the Eastside 18th Street neighborhood, you can find them on the area that's known as the University Hills, which is at the end of the 710 freeway. If you make a left and you take it all the way down, so you start going to the upper hills, by the park, is where you'll find the Eastside 18th Street neighborhood. And like I said, they're pretty large, in size over here. You know what I mean? Um, I know that the West is, their birthplace, the original grounds. But I would probably have to say the East Side is probably the next in size, because you do have the North Side and the South Central and, different parts. But I would say the East Side is, also right there. You know what I mean? Well, considering that the area is not that far from the West Side. But yeah, homie, the East Side 18th Street neighborhood is a neighborhood that's definitely right here, that's been right here. You know what I'm saying? Going at it with the neighborhoods around that area, and right there representing for theirs. You feel me? Now, another old school neighborhood that you have right here is the Barrio Happy Valley Rifa. Now, Happy Valley Rifa or Happy Valley Gang, you could either see it up HVR or HVG. You know, one being Happy Valley, gangsters, or Happy Valley Rifa. You know what I mean? Now, not to be confused with Happy Home or Happy Town or none of those. You know what I mean? No connection. Happy Valley is actually right here in Los Angeles, in Nela, located in the Happy Valley area. This area is known as Happy Valley, through these uphills, almost close to El Sereno. You know what I mean? Towards this way, through the hills. The area is known as Happy Valley. So you can find the Happy Valley Gang throughout the whole entire Happy Valley community. You know what I mean? They just it's home base for them. They just run around, throughout the whole area. Now, Happy Valley is an old school neighborhood. It has been already around since the 1930s, 1940s, so roughly around that time period. Now, people have to understand that most of the gangs in Nela are old-ass barrios, you know what I mean? I know when people think about gangbanging, they automatically think East LA or South Central or Compton or something like that, but no, it's actually Nela. Nela's home base of some of the oldest gangs in LA County. You know what I mean? I know, but people have to also think of it like this. How these areas are nowadays, how these areas are today, is not how these areas were back then. You know what I mean? They slowly became, nicer. They slowly gentrified it. But back then, it was rough, rugged, and raw over here. You know what I mean? Back then, due to a lot of racism, certain people couldn't live in certain places, so they would just put everybody just in one certain area. You feel me? And these were some of the areas where Latinos would land. You get what I mean? Just because they couldn't settle down nowhere else because they didn't want them nowhere else, or they wouldn't sell to them anywhere else or rent to them anywhere else. That's the reason they ended up in these communities and still suffered a lot of racism. Why they had to band together to form these groups that they did. You know what I mean? But yeah, Happy Valley is definitely with the business. They definitely have their homies that be putting it down. You know what I mean? They're heavily rooted. They got their writers, homies. One neighborhood you definitely hear about, and they definitely have their homies that, high homies that be representing them. But yeah, that's what's up with the Happy Valley Rifa neighborhood right there, still doing their thing and holding it down.